I was reading how eating a raw organic carrot with the skin on could be helpful. And now this is all over TikTok. But back then, nobody's really talking about it, about eating organic carrots with the skin on to balance hormones. I thought, I have nothing to lose. So I went out and I bought a 5-pound bag of organic carrots, and I just started eating a carrot every day. Sometimes 2. They taste good. It's no big deal.
Of course.
A couple of months, by no means did I see any changes overnight, but the carrots tasted good. Might as well keep doing this. And besides, I had this big bag. Within a few months, I noticed that my periods were getting a little more regular. It was now like 24 days, 26 days. And at the end of about 9 months, I was back on a 28-day cycle.
Welcome to I Think I Can podcast. My name is Luella Young. I am a woman who believes that we, like wine, get better with age. Age brings us wisdom, intuition, and a level of sophistication that is beyond the reach of youth. I am here to tell you that living a luxuriously rich and fulfilling life is in your reach. I Think I Can podcast will teach you to think differently in order to get different results. Allow me to show you how to do life effortlessly. This podcast is for the woman who is tired of playing by the rules of society, community, religion, parents, and partners. I Think I Can is all about becoming brave, authentic, purposeful, and strong. Listen weekly and you will find yourself living a life you could have only once dreamed of. Thoughts drive our physiology. So channel your thoughts with me into a life truly worth living. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to I Think I Can podcast. This week's podcast is episode 69, and I just want to take a moment before I announce my beautiful guest here, just to let my audience know that I'm kicking off April, May, June with the theme of health and wellness, like everything that relates to our physical body, also, of course, our mind, but mostly it's going to be directed into nutrition, exercise, movement, and anything that's just going to make us feel better and give ourselves some self-love. So moving away from the relationships that I was talking about January, February, March, now spring has sprung. And we're going to get outside. We're going to be in nature. We're going to, nurture our bodies with good food and good people, good company. So with that, I like to introduce you to a good friend of mine, a health coach, a primal health coach. Her name is Elizabeth Resnick. So welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Luella. It is good to be back. I think this is how we first got to know each other, was when I was on your podcast quite a while ago. So it's great to be back.
Yes, I think it was last February. So it's been over a year. It might have been even January of 2022. So yeah, it's high time you're back. So I'll just share that in preparation for today. Like sometimes it takes me a while. I'm kind of thinking, okay, I think I'll ask this question. This might be a good question, but literally like last night, like I had like about 30 seconds. I was just like, okay, I grabbed this piece of paper and I was like, I want to ask her this, and this, because Elizabeth has a way of, I don't know, just getting to, like, sometimes we don't even know the right question to ask, a health coach. It's sort of like, I don't know. I'm kind of like, but like Elizabeth has a way of just kind of going, okay, this is it, Luella. This is it. This is what you need to do. So I think, that's a gift you have. And Yeah. So like maybe just to kind of remind people that might be listening to you for the first time, just sort of how did you get into this field? Because everybody's always like interested in that, you know?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. First, I'll just introduce since people, again, might be seeing me or hearing me for the first time.
Yeah.
I am a 56-year-old double certified health coach, and I help women lose weight so they can love their bodies and their lives. And it's about so much more than weight loss. I would rather never talk. Honestly, I would be happy to never talk about weight loss. But at the end of the day, that is what people come to. That's what women ask me for. That's what they kept asking for. So that's what I help them with. But what's so exciting is that along the way, all these amazing things happen. And I'm just going to throw out an example of, I just want to give a quick example of my client, Laura, because she is just and they're all like happy, healthy, not success stories. She came to me, was it 2021? Anyway, she had purchased my journal and was watching my Instagram posts. We had never conversed, and lost a good 10 or 12 pounds by using the tips and using my journal. And then she reached out to me and she said, "Do you offer coaching?" And I was like, "Well, I absolutely do." So we worked together, and she was someone that just took everything and ran with it. And again, what you were saying about how I know what people need, it's because I'm able to simplify things and make them very clear and it's not that I have it's not at all cookie cutter, but I'm able to simplify things in a way that you stop overthinking and you take action. So Laura applied everything and went on to lose 35 pounds. It did not happen overnight by any means. It was doing the little things, just as we were talking about before we started recording. It was these small actions, but she was doing them consistently, and they start compounding over time. So she ended up losing 35 pounds, but that's not the most exciting part. Here's the most exciting part. Along the way, people weren't saying, "Have you lost weight?" They were saying, "You're different." People at work were noticing. She started dressing a little differently. She was feeling more confident. Every single piece of Laura's life has changed. And we still work together. We still touch base, little touch-up call, every maintenance call, maybe every 6 weeks or so. Laura received, her financial situation has completely changed. She received a huge promotion at work. And she's close to 60. She has received a huge promotion. She loves her job. Loves her job. She was not going to date ever again. She is now in a relationship with a wonderful man, and they're going to Italy together next month. And they just bought a house. So this is like her life is, and she's still going. Like, she is so fired up about all these amazing things that are happening in her life. And yes, there's growing pains. And yes, it's messy sometimes. And it's not always easy. And we regroup a little bit because she's like, "Oh my gosh, all these things are going on. I don't have the time to work out the way I was." Okay, great. Here are some things you can do, Laura. So it's not that you have this one plan and you just follow it the rest of your life. Life changes. Life gets bigger. Life gets more exciting. I mean, I've seen, we've both grown and changed since we met each other, and we adapt to these changes. But this is what it's all about. So it's, again, people come to me to lose weight, and they do lose weight. Right? We get that going, but so many more exciting things happen. So I've seen promotions, going back to school, new relationships, more money. I'm happier than I've ever been. Yeah. I feel safe around food. I trust my body. These are, women in their late 50s saying, "This is the first time in my life that I feel safe around food." To me, that is powerful.
Wow. I've never heard it like spoken about like that before. Like, I feel safe around food, but that's so true. Oh my gosh.
Life-changing. It is life-changing. And that's not, nobody says to me, "Elizabeth, I want to feel safe around food." Yeah. They also don't say to me, "Elizabeth, I want a new, I want to boost my career. I want a new relationship." Like, those aren't my things. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't pretend to be a relationship coach or a career coach, but these are the things that happen along the way. And that's why I show up every day. That's why I'm fired up. That's what excites me, because it's about so much more than weight loss.
I'm just thinking maybe you should change your bio in your linked or your link tree or something like that, and just say, I'm a life coach that happens to have like people lose weight as a symptom or something like that, because it's true, right?
I
It's
basically
true.
say I help women lose weight so they can love their bodies and their lives, because that's really what it turns to.
Yes.
You love your life. You love your life. That's what we want. We want to feel good.
And it's sort of like I see your passion too. And if anybody watches the this episode on YouTube, it's sort of like, and this is why we do the work we do, right? It's sort of like when we have clients like Laura that like we see this transformation happening, it's just sort of like sometimes I feel like it would be funny too, like in my room, it's like if there was a camera on me, like you'd see me doing like a little dance all over my office. It's just sort of like it lights us up like a freaking Christmas tree when people just get this. So that's such a great example of starting it off. And I have to share, like when I mentioned about how you have this way of making it simple, it's so true, and little steps and stuff like that. Because I remember there was a moment, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, or like we were just chatting back and forth, and I think I mentioned something like, okay, this is not sexy to talk about, but like I was like going through episodes of constipation or something like that. Okay. So, I mean, but let's just be honest women here, right? Like, I mean, like,
right. We talk about stress. There's no topic that I haven't discussed with people.
Right. So whether it was due to stress or low thyroid or whatever it is, like we all have our episodes. So, but this is like, I was getting in my head. I was like, I know I was playing with a lot of different fiber, and I was like, okay, so flaxseed, or maybe I'll do this and blah 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 and blah blah blah, and you were just like, up your magnesium. I was like, oh really? Yeah. So how much are you taking right now? Around 300-400. Take around 700, and like voila, like everything was answered. And it's just like, meanwhile,
without any like bloating or anything, and all the other things.
Yeah. So like, I'm just like, oh, right. Okay. So anyway. Okay. So, and
I'll just want to jump in really quick too and explain that, because something else. So I know that I'm good at simplifying things, but I know that something else is that I have, and this I don't talk about, I don't, market, so to speak. But I get there's also an intuitive part of what I do. So like, I trust the hits that I get. Somebody else could have said, Elizabeth, I'm constipated. I might have said flaxseed.
Exactly.
So I also have this way, like there's not one way to solve, there's a million different ways you could solve any problem. But that is something else that I know that I have a knack for, is going with that intuitive hit, because it works. And then, we might fine tune it from there. But so rather than saying, well, Luella, you could do this and you could do that, try this. Boom.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it. Okay. So, one thing I see you stress a lot on your Instagram is, and by the way, people, if you're not following her on Instagram, you have to follow her on Instagram because it's just so inspiring. But is the whole topic of protein in produce. Do you still really believe in that approach?
Well,
and
I really do, because it's not a one size fits all.
No.
So protein in produce is I like to say that I have two guidelines. Prioritize for women that want to lose weight, feel good, and just generally nourish their bodies. Prioritize protein in produce and eat foods without an ingredients list as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there are ingredients and things, but again, so it comes down to eating real food. So I will not make blanket statements about how much protein somebody needs because that is individual. And that's, I mean, yeah, I can give some general guidelines, but at the end of the day, until I've spoken to somebody, I know where they're coming from, then we can say, okay, let's start here. But the fact is we need protein to maintain our lean body mass when we're losing weight. So if you're in a calorie deficit and you're losing weight, but you're not getting protein, your adequate protein for your needs. And again, that's going to vary. You're going to end up gaining when you gain that weight back, which you will, because you're going to have a lot of cravings. You're going to be putting more on as fat. So we need protein to maintain our lean body mass, especially as we're losing weight. It also greatly reduces cravings. And this is why many women that I'm working with have this new freedom with food. Another quote I heard from a client that I just started working with in January, who just adore, Michelle said, I have completely lost the desire to snack at night. She had for years, for as long as she can remember, would eat dinner and then want to sit and snack. That's gone. She eats dinner. She doesn't want anything else. She is so satisfied. So protein in whatever form, different things are going to work for different people. And you know that I've been everything from, I was raw vegan at one point in my life. So I've tried everything. I have great respect. I was vegetarian for over 30 years. I have great respect for everybody's dietary choices.
Yeah.
But I am going to tell everybody to find some protein sources that are working for them. And then produce. Getting these beautiful, colorful fruits and veggies that are loaded with antioxidants and, and all these different micronutrients. But again, for different people, this is going to look different. So it's not a one size, it's not a cookie cutter meal plan, but it's an idea of eating real food that is nourishing your body.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So speaking of protein, do you have, I know I've heard over the years that, especially post 60, I know we don't want to get into the grams and things like that, but especially 60 onward or 65 onward or whatever, we really do need to pay attention to the amount of protein we're taking in.
100%. And I think it should start, I honestly believe it should start way before then. So there's also a lot of research that has been going on showing how important muscle is to healthy aging. So we know quad strength and balance are so important as we get older. But muscle itself is the organ of longevity. And there is more and more research behind this. I'm not going to quote a bunch of statistics here, but Dr. Gabrielle Lyons has done a lot of research on this. There's a lot of people out there that are talking about the science behind this. So we need to maintain that muscle. Our body needs those amino acids that are used to build the muscle.
Yeah.
So, and we're getting those from protein. So, yes, I do believe, but I don't believe in waiting until it's a problem. I believe it's just a part of our lifestyle, and then it never becomes a problem.
Yeah. And that makes me think as well that, people need to sort of not look at the scale, because if they're upping their protein and they're, maintaining or could be perhaps even gaining weight from muscle. I mean, would you have
I would say here's my thoughts on the scale.
Okay.
The scale it's one piece of information.
Yeah.
I think it's an important piece of information. At the end of the day, there are people that are just carrying too much weight on their bodies. So a woman can only, and I've heard, put on anywhere from half a pound to a pound of muscle per month. So you're not going to bulk up. And so what I would say is, if somebody has a history of disordered eating, I'd say, let's stay off the scale for a while.
Yeah.
Many times with my clients, they won't want to weigh themselves for a while. I'm like, great, let's get used to just eating real food, feeling good. Notice what changes you see. And they'll start to notice their clothes are getting looser. They feel stronger, all these things. But I do personally, the way I like to look at the scale, if you're looking at it as information, I personally weigh myself every day. And what this does is it allows me to see these natural fluctuations so that I know that I could be up 2 pounds one day, and that means nothing. That's nothing. But at the same time, if you are overweight, you do want to, this is one measure. It's also, how do my clothes feel? How's my energy? How do I feel in my body? Well, I have fewer aches and pains. All these good things are happening. So I wouldn't say don't look at the scale. I'd say look at it as information. It's hard to take the emotion out of it because there's so much that's been programmed into us as women our entire lives. But I think to say don't ever weigh yourself is, see how even seeing how your clothes fit. If you're just wearing stretchy stuff, you're not going to know. Right. So, I mean, there's many people that put on 25 pounds during the pandemic because they never took their pajama pants off.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of things. It's how do your clothes fit? How do you look? How does many people notice their faces changing, some inflammation in a positive way, not a gaunt, oh my gosh, I lost weight quickly, which does not look good in your face. But so, wow, I didn't realize I had that subtle puffiness around my eyes, and suddenly it's going away because you're eating fewer inflammatory foods, things like that. So it's, how do I look? How do my clothes feel? How is my energy? How's my mood? And what's the number on the scale? It's not the scale does not have to be something to be afraid of. But when people are saying just weigh yourself once a week or once a month, the problem that I see with that, say you're weighing yourself weekly, every Sunday morning, and you're really making some progress. But then you went out to eat Saturday night, and something in the seed oils in the restaurant and maybe the glass of wine that you had puffs you up, and you're suddenly 2 pounds heavier than you were the Sunday before. That's discouraging. Yeah. If you're going to weigh yourself, I say weigh yourself every day when you get out of bed, and then you're going to see that you have these natural fluctuations. But as long as the overall trend is down, then it's a good, it's a good thing. So my clients actually, that's another thing they're saying is like, wow, I realize I'm not freaking out now at these little fluctuations because I see it's all part of the big picture, but I'm seeing the trend is going down.
Yes. And you also made me think of something else that's so important about, like, when we talk about food, and like I asked you about protein and those macronutrients, it's sort of like, we're talking about, okay, extra muscle, and we're talking about body shape, and we're talking about weight, but like, how about hair, nails, skin?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, protein, collagen is the most predominant protein in our bodies. And I know we've talked about this before, so we're not going to do a whole collagen thing today, but it's, that's what keeps our skin firm. That's what keeps our, even our, everything moving, our connective tissue.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's so that's so important. So it's like when you're putting this real food into your body, this nourishing food, like everything is better, and your mood and your mental clarity.
Exactly. Things are firing, at the rate that they're supposed to, instead of like, even like, word finding, everything. It's just sort of like, yeah. So, what then? Okay. So I know we don't want to get into amounts, but like protein, I mean, prioritizing protein, like, how do you feel? Because I know this is an issue for, I know personally myself, but like, how do we get enough protein in? And like, what's your thoughts on like supplementing protein, like in terms of a protein powder or,
that's a great question.
Okay.
Start with real food. And there are foods that have a lot of protein for not a lot of calories and taste good. So, I'm not against protein powders, but I think they are like a plan B, C, or D.
Right.
I feel like when we start breaking stuff, like isolating these, it's always better to get it from real food. It's nature. Put it together the way it's meant to be. So, like, for example, now I wouldn't eat tuna every day because of the mercury content, but tuna, albacore tuna, 1 can of tuna of albacore tuna packed in water has about 30 grams of protein and only 130 calories.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge protein boost.
Yeah.
In fact, 30 grams of protein is a great, again, we're not going to throw out blanket recommendations, but there is science behind that being a great amount that our bodies can absorb, and that really keeps us clear-headed, cravings away, all of those things. So I would give albacore tuna for somebody that tolerates dairy, and many people, again, it's very bio-individual, but something like a high-quality cultured cottage cheese. And I didn't eat any dairy for years and years and years. Helps clear up my skin, but then I found out, wow, what if I try reintroducing a little bit? Guess what? I am fine having it.
Yeah.
So cottage cheese, a high-quality cultured cottage cheese. 1 cup of that, if you get, say, the 2%, is going to be super creamy and satisfying. And it has 28 grams of protein to 160 calories. And it's delicious. And for anybody that says they don't like it, it's because they haven't tried it in a long time. I have all kinds of tricks and tips to make it, blend it, do all these things with it. But, that is another great source, especially for some women. So many of the women I work with maybe have been vegetarian or have cut back on meat for so long that they're not ready to dive into eating a lot of fish. They're kind of easing into, say, eating meat or fish. That's fine. But so in that case, a high quality dairy can be a really nice way to get some protein in, and it's very delicious and creamy and very satisfying.
How do you know?
A lot of protein for not a lot of calories.
Okay, so what's your definition of high quality? Are you saying organic?
When it comes to dairy, I would say I look for as much as possible organic and pasture raised, grass fed. Okay. It's not always possible with every product, but that would be my gold standard. If it can be local, if it could be from a local farmer, even better. But again, you start where you are. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. For fish, I look for wild caught. It's farmed fish is just, for the most part, not a great idea. We're not
I know.
Let's just say I'd always rather say, I don't want to scare everybody. It's not about scaring everybody, but it's about what would be the best choice. So wild caught when it comes to your fish and your shellfish. And there are a few exceptions, but that's the best. For poultry, I'd always look for pasture raised. Same thing for beef, grass fed. So chickens are not meant to be vegetarian. So when you see vegetarian fed hens, chickens want to be out pecking bugs and eating. Chickens are omnivores. So, again, we're always looking for the highest quality we can, but don't let perfect be the enemy of good. If you can't.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So, what you were, how about, supplements. I know myself, I personally vary from time to time on what I'm taking, but what are your, do you have a core 3 or 4 things that you take, or is it all whole food?
Well, here's my feeling. Rather than throwing out some supplements that, to everybody listening who's going to jump on I would say magnesium, but let's back up for a second. I feel the supplements, the shakes, the powders, all that stuff is the icing on the cake. Right. So it's none of that stuff is going to make or break you. Yes, it can make a difference, but start with real food and start with real food, prioritize protein and produce. And then from there, we can add in some supplements. I do find, here's why I recommend magnesium to just about everybody. If I could make one blanket statement, it would be take magnesium. Magnesium is a mineral. It's the one mineral that is not stable in our bodies. So most minerals can kind of build up over time. It's not like we need to, magnesium is not stable. So we do need to, and most of us are just not getting enough of it from our diet. And that's partly because things are depleted, soils are depleted. And we're not going to get into all that. But, so magnesium, just as we were talking about, keeps us regular. If that were all that it did. But it also improves, it's basically involved with, I think, 600 different functions in our bodies, but it's very helpful for sleep, for stress relief, muscle relaxation. So
Yeah.
So many issues that women especially deal with, magnesium is involved with. So that is one thing that I can very confidently recommend.
Yeah. Okay. How about what's your thoughts on hormone replacement therapy as we age? Do you have any, or is that something you don't really?
I would say my thoughts are I've never done it. So I think I get a lot of questions about it. Am I doing it? No, I have nothing against it. I know women, I know women that have seen amazing results. I personally went through menopause with not a single symptom. Not a single symptom. I have never had a hot flash. I've never had a night sweat. I never had anything. So I attribute, yes, I'm sure some of that was a dumb luck, maybe, but I believe a lot of it was my lifestyle and my diet, and I didn't wait until I had symptoms to try to fix it. But the one thing that I did that I've shared this, and I am going to share this story because it's so crazy, but it's the truth, it's the truth. So it's what happened to me, but I've seen other people have good results from this. So when I was in my mid 40s, I went to see a functional medicine MD. This woman was amazing, very, into nutrition, lifestyle, everything else. I mentioned to her that my cycle was getting a lot shorter. So I'd been on a very regular, without being on the pill, it was no longer on any hormonal birth control. I had gone from a very regular 28-day cycle that was like clockwork to suddenly it was 24 days, 21 days, 22 days. All this fluctuation was making me crazy. And as wise as this woman was and as amazing information as she gave me, she said, you're in perimenopause. This, she explained whatever was going on in my body. But she's like, this is just what's happening. You're headed towards menopause. And I thought, that doesn't really sit right with me because I'm not really liking this. So if I can make this better. So I had seen something on some holistic blog that I was following. This was such a long time ago. I wasn't even on any social media. This was long before my health coaching, any of this. But I was reading how eating a raw organic carrot with the skin on could be helpful. And now this is all over TikTok. But back then, nobody's really talking about eating organic carrots with the skin on to balance hormones. I thought, I have nothing to lose. So I went out, I bought a 5-pound bag of organic carrots, and I just started eating a carrot every day. Sometimes 2. They taste good. It's no big deal.
Of course.
A couple months, by no means did I see any changes overnight, but the carrots tasted good. Might as well keep doing this. And besides, I had this big bag. Within a few months, I noticed that my periods were getting a little more regular. It was now like 24 days, 26 days. And at the end of about 9 months, I was back on a 28-day cycle. And I stayed like that, like clockwork, until probably the age of 52. And then between 52 and 53, things just kind of wound down. And at that point, I was like, this is fine. I still kept eating my carrots, and I still eat my carrots.
Yeah.
So there is a fiber, a specific fiber in the carrot that helps to balance our hormones. I know specifically it binds to some of what I would refer to as like the junk estrogen and gets it out of our bodies. Similar to what you get through cruciferous vegetables like broccoli. There's a compound abbreviated as DIM, D-I-M, that does things similar and that you can certainly take as a supplement. And I've taken it. I've taken that. I didn't see a whole lot of results. The carrot trick worked for me. I will continue to eat a raw organic carrot. Do I do it every day? Sometimes I forget, but most days. That is the only significant thing that I changed. Yes, I was eating real food. Yes, I was eating high quality fats like egg yolks. I do think it's important too that women eat fat to keep our skin glowing and healthy, hair shiny and all those things. So healthy fat, fat doesn't make us fat. We don't need keto fat bombs 24/7, but we need fat from real food like egg yolks, avocados, things like that.
Yeah.
Healthy fat is very important in hormone balancing. So is getting natural light into our eyes, look natural light. And I know you love your walks and all that. That is so important also to balancing our hormones. So I was doing all those things too, just as part of my general lifestyle. But it was interesting. The carrot was the one significant thing that I added that was so easy and made a huge difference. So I'm not against hormone replacement therapy by any means. I personally have not done it. And I am thrilled with the way I went through menopause and the way I feel now over 3 years out. I feel amazing.
Exactly. No, I think it was a good topic to bring up too, because the fact that you are 56 and your whole tagline is healthy, happy, and hot.
Yeah, and I still feel that way.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, perfect. I know, because we can really get into the what I call the weeds or the reeds and just sort of and make it so much more complicated than it actually is. And that's why I think it's, your work is so important, because again, you simplify it. And this is just one example of one little thing that you do every single day that you realize does make a big difference. And the journal, mention why you created this journal. What was the point of that?
Absolutely. So it's been over a year and a half now. I published the Happy, Healthy, and Hot Journal, 90 Days to Love Your Body and Your Life. And I created this journal because it was what I knew I needed and what my clients needed. And I figured if we needed it, there's probably other people that need it as well. So it is a 90-day journal. I'm going to grab one. I have one right back here, I believe.
Yeah.
Just to show you the size. Yeah. So first of all, it's $12. So I made it a no-brainer price.
Yeah.
And so anybody watching this on YouTube, it's a big journal, plenty of room to write. And the whole idea of this is to every day, it covers 3 areas: happy, healthy, and hot. So happy is the mindset. I encourage people to set an intention for the day, choose an affirmation, list some things they're grateful for, and list something that they're proud of, because as women, we need to be our own best cheerleader. And then healthy, just a space to write down what you ate. So there's no nutritional guidelines in here. I'm not telling you have to eat this, that, or the other thing. It is a space to write it down. And here's why we write it down. There are tons of apps out there that could track our food. There is something very powerful about putting pen to paper. It is intentional and it is holding us accountable. And there was a study of over 1,600 people that showed that those who tracked what they ate lost twice as much weight as those who didn't. 1,600 people are trying to lose weight. The group that is keeping track of what they ate lost twice as much weight as those that didn't. And to me, it's not about the macros. Yes, that's a part of it, but you could do this and never track a single macro, never write down the calories, protein, any of that. It is that act of holding yourself accountable, of being honest with yourself. Do I want to write that I ate a whole bag of peanut M&Ms in my journal? Or not? Maybe I do. Maybe, again, it's all about being honest with yourself. But then this is all information. We can take the emotion out of it. We can see patterns and see what's working for us and what's not working for us. And then what I did is, so there's, again, I know unless somebody's watching this on YouTube, there's these hot is how your workouts for the day.
Yeah.
And then there's room for any additional notes. And I put some little quotes and pieces of advice down at the bottom. But then every week, there's a weekly check-in. So it's a full page to say, what did you do well in the last week? Look back, see what you did well. I do this for myself. I use my journal every single day. What could you improve on? What could you make better? Again, how many glasses of wine did I have that night? Wow, I could have had one glass of wine and not 2 with dinner because I noticed that I had a headache the next day. Whatever. Just be honest with yourself. And what's your focus for the week ahead? And again, this doesn't just have to be about your health. Your focus might be that you're going to really give 110% at this presentation you're doing at your job, whatever. What's your focus? And I find this so valuable for myself. My clients love it. And again, talking about being consistent. So something that I did for years is when I wanted to get, quote unquote, back on track, if I felt I'd gained a little weight or weren't feeling as good, I would start keeping track of what I ate. And I'd do this in little scraps of paper or whatever, or notes in my phone, but that was kind of tedious. And then one day I thought, wait, why don't I just do this every day? And I don't have to get back on track. So again, it doesn't mean every day is perfect. You could look at my journal, you would see I am far from perfect. But again, it's those, as we were saying before you hopped on, it's the small actions done consistently that compound over time and yield amazing results. Yes. So this act of writing down what you're eating, good or bad, because nothing's really bad, but it's just that whole idea of being honest with yourself, holding yourself accountable and looking at it in black and white, putting pen to paper. It is extremely powerful and people get results. As the example I was giving you in the beginning of Laura, my client Laura, lost around 12 pounds just applying what I was talking about on Instagram and writing things down and keeping track in the journal. Mm-hmm. And then as we worked together, then we could fine tune some things. And then she really started to ramp, again, things started to compound. Mm-hmm. But just that act of taking some action and writing these things down made a huge difference.
Oh, well, and what I think I like the most about it is the patterned behavior and tracking that to, your food in terms of like your mental health, what were you going through that week? Oh, and isn't that interesting? I also gained 3 pounds. It's sort of like the whole idea of what stress does to the body in terms of inflammation, how our thoughts, could lead to weight gain when you think of it. Or just like when we realize that we're getting way too detailed and resisting this food or that food's bad, this food's good. I think that's where people get it like just so in their heads and less in their bodies.
Quick story. I have a quick story.
Good.
About
Tell me.
I'll share 2 quick stories, 2 what I consider real client success stories. One client, I'm never going to share her name because I know she's super private. But she started tracking, and she actually sends me every week before our call. She sends me what she's eaten, and she's amazing. And this is a woman who went from really not even enjoying food because she had so many rigid ideas. And she's loving her meals, and she's really trying all these new vegetables and fruits and having the best time. And all these things have changed in her life. Her business is up leveled, her relationship with her husband, all these amazing things are happening. So I always love looking at her, what she's done. So I'm like, wow, I love this. So she sends it to me on a Wednesday morning, and one Wednesday morning I see that she had a Frosty at Wendy's. So I said, and I said, wow, you had a Frosty. And here was the beautiful thing. Before that would have been so bad, and she would have felt bad, or it would have caused a whole snowball of, well, now I'm bad. I messed up. I had this bad thing. And she said, I had the Frosty and it was delicious. And I don't need another one. I probably won't, but it was a delightful treat. So she could before that, she couldn't just have the Frosty without telling a whole story. And same thing, another client who's been feels best. Again, everybody's individual. She does really well keeping things really low carb. So this is what works for her, everything. But we know this is all about eating real food.
Yeah.
So recently she had a family dinner, had a bunch of people over, and she said, I had the roasted potatoes that I made. They were these organic potatoes, tossed in olive oil and roasted. She said they were so delicious, and it was fine. And they were delicious, and I enjoyed them. And it doesn't mean that I ate 12 chocolate chip cookies, so it's just that whole idea that also seemed like it was bad when actually potatoes, they are a nightshade. Some people have allergies, but if you don't, potatoes are very nourishing and very satisfying food. Mm-hmm. But again, something that people are sometimes afraid to eat. So she had these delicious organic potatoes roasted in olive oil, and they were so nourishing and wonderful. And she woke up the next day feeling great. So those are 2 very recent, like just past couple weeks, stories of how It's nothing is good or bad. It's all information, but how these women now have freedom. They real food freedom. They're learning that they feel amazing, nourishing their bodies with real food. And that once they start doing that, the other stuff, a lot of the, junk doesn't have an appeal, but if it does and they have it, they can move on. You can have a Frosty and move on and enjoy it.
Exactly. And I think, this also relates to the weighing yourself too. Like you realize when you wake up the next morning after having a Frosty, it's like you actually didn't gain 5 pounds, which, you convinced yourself you would.
Right.
And yeah. And, I think you just mentioning olive oil, it just like took me back to a moment where I was in Italy last year and I love cappuccinos, and it's something I don't really have here, but my brother and I were like, it's like we were in a beautiful cafe and so we're having our cappuccino and they also have beautiful pastries and, which I would kind of have considered, oh, that's a no food or whatever. Yeah. But there's many people enjoying beautiful pastries, in this cafe. And I look at my brother and I said, it's interesting how, I wouldn't, how would I say this? It's sort of, I wouldn't have expected because, okay, nobody was obese in the cafe. Like, let's just, say it that way. And I know there's just so many, North Americans are suffering with obesity and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And so I'm just going like, there's a real dichotomy here. There's a real paradox going on. Like what's happening? And it's just the fact, I think, that people don't taboo food like that. It's sort of like, but it's in moderation. Like we might have a pastry this morning and not have it again for another week or 2 weeks or whatever.
Right. It doesn't mean you're eating pastries for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And also, I believe that they were enjoying them very intentionally. They were having, it wasn't stuffing their face while they're in their car driving. It was let's enjoy this beautiful moment in this cafe with cappuccino and a pastry, or maybe cappuccino and not a pastry. Nobody cares if you're a pastry. Like nobody cares.
No.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And nobody's judging you. I think there's this whole, like, what are people going to think if I eat this? Or what are people, or I'm embarrassed to not eat it because everyone else is. Nobody cares.
Or like, I'm just thinking about you. Like, what if someone would catch you on camera, like, having like a Kit Kat bar or something like that? Like, oh my God. Like, it's like, like, okay.
I would not eat a Kit Kat bar because I don't like Kit Kat bars, but
I do.
I very openly, most people do. For some reason, they've never done it for me, but I love my chocolate in general. And I very openly talked about how I really one time I bought the 5-pound bag of chocolate chips at Costco and I was like, boy, this was a big mistake because I can't stop eating them. So I love chocolate and I'm very open about that. And also open about the fact that I can, enjoy it very intentionally. But if I start just picking, that's not intentional.
No.
So I would sit down and eat some really delicious chocolate and enjoy every bite and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, very intentional.
I mean, I think that's a theme here, like, and that ties into intuitive eating. It does really, because if you're just sort of like, am I enjoying this food? Like, am I resisting the food? Like, it's just sort of like, how am I feeling right now as I eat this food? And also being in the rest and digest mode when we are eating food and not in the fight or flight mode. And
that's a huge, I feel like we could get into that even in another.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you and I, you and I have to watch our time. Can I ask you, okay, so like to close it off here, can I, I kind of like some rapid fire questions just to kind of round it off once in a while. Okay. So what do you have on your bedside table?
Oh,
books?
Water. Okay, great. There's always one book. I used to have huge piles, and now I've committed to like working on one book at a time. I always have water usually with lemon in it.
Yeah.
And my journal is on my bedside table, along with 2 notebooks that are kind of for different things, and some crystals, some candles, and things, stuff that feels good to me.
Perfect.
And a little card with some intentions and goals written out that I see when I get up in the morning when I go to bed. So that's what's on my bedside table.
Oh, so beautiful. Okay. And if you were dropped on a desert island with a choice of only, let's say, 2 foods and 2 beverages, what would that be?
Oh, my beverages would be some type of mineral water and coffee. That's a no.
Yeah.
I think I'd get really resourceful with scavenging for things on the island. So what foods?
They don't have to be healthy either.
Oh, no, I know. But I would have some sardines, because I love sardines, and they're amazing food, but I really love them. They're very specific. I have a very specific brand and everything that I like. And I would think that I would be able to find lots of fun greens and things, or fruit on the island.
Yeah.
So I might have some really good dark chocolate.
Yeah, good.
I think I could find some fruits and veg. I could find my produce. I don't want to have to hunt or anything. I could fish. I'd want my sardines because they're ready to go, and then some really good chocolate. I'd be very happy.
Perfect. I admire that. The sardines would not be the thing coming out of my mouth. Yeah. So, yeah, that's great. Okay. Well, I will let you go, and definitely we'll have you back on, because I think there's so many different ways we could go: intuitive eating, disordered eating, binge eating. Yeah. So let's
stuff to talk about. Yes, we'll do this soon.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Elizabeth. And
absolutely, Luella.
Everyone else. Oh, and she you can find Elizabeth. What's your handle on Instagram?
Happy, healthy, and hot _ Elizabeth.
Okay, perfect. And that's where you hang out the most, right?
That's the place to find me. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, everyone else, have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks once again for joining me on another great episode of I Think I Can podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe below so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And until next week, treat each day like it was your last, because each new day is a privilege that we shan't take for granted. Cheers and have a great week. Bye-bye.